Tech Talk.
Hello FPV tree racers. One of the things that happen when you get into racing is joining the racing culture. And one of those major cultural differences is timing your runs. Probably 99.9% of your runs are going to be by yourself. So who are you really competing against? In that situation, we compete against the clock, because at the end of the day, the guy with the fastest time usually is going to win the race. But the problem is, with most transmitters, the timers only go down to 1 second. So we have to work around those constraints. But if we're timing multiple laps over a run, it would be nice to get feedback of how we're doing while we're flying. In 2014, I did around 800 flights, half of which were timed. And through that process, I learned what the requirements would be for what I call the ultimate lap timer. 3 parts of this video: how to use the ultimate lap timer script, how to install it on your transmitter, and then how to modify it for your needs. So let's go jump in. Okay, let's start with a quick demo. I've assigned the ultimate lap timer function to a switch. In my case, it's going to be this little switch up here called SA. I turn it on, and there's my lap timer. Let's go through the screen. The first part here is your timer. This is a feature for your voltage monitoring through telemetry through FreeSky. We have our best run and our best laps. We have the current running time, the current lap number, and when we start running, we'll actually see lap times, and these little numbers here, those are your throttle percentages. So we're taking a reading of your average throttle for each lap. Useful. We also can control some variables, user input variables, the number of laps we want a lap time, checkpoint, and then some information. If you don't have voice activation or voice playing ability on your transmitter, not a problem. We play the messages right here, and then some other informational features. So let's give it a try. Let's look at our button layout here first. First thing is, we use 5 buttons in this application. Well, actually 6. The first one just turns on the function on and off. Turns it on, turns it off. Button SB applies your best run. Up applies the lap. Down applies your best run, and we'll demonstrate all these functions. We have a reset. We can reset our current time, and we can also reset our all of our data. We use the momentary switch as our actual lap timer, and I would recommend changing this out to a push button timer. Let's give this a demo. Okay, so you're flying, you got it all set up.
Start timer.
And I'm going to turn mine off.
Stop timer.
And we start with this little button here. So let's go, and the lap timing starts. There's an audio cue so you know it actually started, and as you can see, we're now timing our laps. So there we are running our first lap. We've dialed in 4 laps. Let's go to lap 2.
20.2 seconds.
Now it reads out each lap as we click our momentary switch. Let's go to lap 3.
7 seconds.
So we have a 7-second lap. Now watch as I move my throttle up. See how it's not only averaging the lap, but it's putting it into our cumulative time as well. And this is not averaging of the averages. To get these master times, we're adding up all the data points of the total versus the number of counts we take. So it's a true average, not an average of an average. We click the button again. This is our final lap.
25.9 seconds.
Final lap.
And we know now when we're racing, we have the last lap in mind. It's kind of like our bell lap. When we're finished racing, our time is done, and we're done. So that lap was 63.68. Okay, so now let's go ahead and apply. Well, there's 2 types of applies we can do. We can apply the best lap, and we can apply the best run. First, we'll do a demonstration of applying the best run. I click the switch down.
Best. Oh, yes.
And it puts it right up here as our best run, and our average throttle was 64. And we have a little message here saying new best. So if you don't have audio alerts on your transmitter, you can at least see, hey, this was a new best. Automatically does a reset. We're ready to go fly again. Let's do a faster lap.
Center switch, B and C first.
Now there's error messages. These 2 switches, switch B and C, as the message just said, have to be put in the middle positions. And let's go start our second lap. First lap.
2.9 seconds.
Second lap.
3.4 seconds.
Third lap.
3.5 seconds.
Fourth lap. Final lap notification.
Minus 49.6 seconds. New best. You handsome fellow.
I've got a program so Audrey gives us a little helpful reminders. As you get better and better, she'll start being a little bit more flirtatious with you. So in this situation, we know we beat our last time by 49.6 seconds. Awesome. Now, let's go and clear everything. Here's my button right up here. It says clear all. So I can clear all my data. Doop. These two buttons control your inputs for checkpoint and number of laps. Let's say I'm only going to do a 2-lap race. I dial that down till it gets to 2, and you can see the numbers disappear. Let's go ahead and run 2-lap races, and we'll start stacking up some best laps and some best runs. On your mark, set, go.
3.8 seconds. Final lap.
So our first lap, it doesn't give us any feedback because it's the first lap. We're going to go ahead, and first thing we're going to do is we're going to apply to our best lap. Now but the best lap does not clear everything, and now we can go ahead and
First best. Oh, yes.
we applied our best run. Now in our second run, it's going to tell us if we beat our best time. Automatically did the reset. Let's give it another go.
2.4 seconds. Final lap. Minus 1.7 seconds. New best. Now push it harder.
Ooh, she's getting a little more seductive. Let's go ahead and apply that.
First best. Oh, yes.
And it slid the rest of the times down. Now, you might be asking, why don't we just also assign those to the best laps? Why can't it just automatically apply to our best run and best laps? Well, because the real world is you're going to fly, you're going to crash, and you may not want to count any of those times. In that situation, we would hit reset, either the laps or all. Also, there's human error. You might forget to hit the start timer button, so your lap data would be off. But your run still is intact, because don't forget, there's about a half a second of delay time with humans, right? That's our reaction time. However, if we're consistent with that half second, in essence, our times are actually very good. In other words, if we're half a second to trigger the start and a half a second late on triggering each lap, well, then we actually are quite consistent. But we never really know. And the purpose of the lap timer is not to replace a transponder system, but to give you feedback as you're flying, and so you can also improve on a predefined course. Okay, so let's do a couple more. I'm going to bang out a few more of these laps, and we'll do a few more of the features. Let's try to inadvertently apply the best lap, and I'm going to go ahead and start the timer. Now I'm going to get an error message.
Center switch. B and C first.
So make sure to always put your sticks back into the center position here, these two, B and C. And that becomes real natural after you do this a couple thousand times. And let's go run another lap. So here's our third run. We're trying to beat 5.68 seconds.
4.5 seconds. Final lap. 0.5 seconds to go.
So what this is telling us is we didn't beat our best, and we didn't get that seductive Audrey encouragement message. So let's again go ahead and apply. But we're going to apply the best laps. In this situation, the first lap was 4.5 seconds, not better. The second lap was much better. So I'm going to take this switch, apply the best lap. This number should jump to 1.68. And this top number here is the best ideal lap.
1.9 seconds. New ideal.
So what we're doing is we're saying, hey, if we can be consistent in getting best laps, then what we can have is shoot for our best ideal time. So in my mind, if I do one good lap and then two not so good laps on the first run, maybe the middle lap was really good on my next run, and maybe the last lap was my best lap on my third run, the combination of those gives me my best ideal based on my skill set today. And that's what this does. It lets me know my best ideal time. And that's always what I'm shooting for in combination with beating my best actual run time. Let's do a few more, and then we're going to show you a couple other features. So, if I were to do this right now, I haven't applied the best. So I'm going to...
Second best.
And there we go. See how it's also carrying over our average throttle? So it's some more data you can use. Let's do one more lap. There's our first lap of our run.
3.9 seconds. Final lap.
Ooh.
0 seconds. New best. Fly it like you stole it. Baby cakes.
Oh, she called me baby cakes this time. Awesome. So we're going to apply this as our best by quick down.
First best. Oh, yes.
Automatically clears because I didn't apply it as best lap. Okay, one more function I want to show you guys. I'm going to clear everything by going to the reset all. So now I've just wiped the best lap, the best run, the best current, and so on. I'm going to now show you the example of the checkpoint. What the checkpoint is it gives you an audible cue as to like a checkpoint time. So what that means is, let's say I'm flying a 1.5-minute lap. Well, it'd be nice at, say, 45 seconds in to give me an audible cue. What that does is I'll have a visual reference as I'm flying. I'll hear that, and I'll glance over, and I'll know, hey, I'm a little further in this lap than I was on my last lap. And it's a good way to give you feedback and keep you motivated as you're flying each lap. So I'm going to dial this in to 12 seconds. So this is going to give me an audible cue of 12 seconds into my lap. Now, the other problem with audible cues is you can't just have it beep, because then you have no lead time. If you hear that beep, you'll glance over where you're at. But this audible cue gives you a little lead time, and you'll hear what I mean. So let's go ahead and run the lap. I'm going to let this lap go past 12 seconds. You'll see this number count down, and then you'll see this one trigger. Let's race. We're counting down. We're getting close to our checkpoint. And our checkpoint's coming up right around now. I'm glancing over. Here there were 5 beeps. So when you hear that tone on 5 beeps, you're going to know to start looking for your visual reference point to see if you're further ahead on that or further behind.
25.4 seconds. Final lap.
We're starting our second and final lap, and notice it resets and the next checkpoint comes in. And there we are. And see we have a minus countdown. And there's our lap, 43. We're going to go ahead, apply it to the lap, apply it to the run.
Oh, yes.
Now, what happens normally is you're going to fly, you're going to find your 2 or 3 favorite places to fly. And what I used to do last year is I would always pull out a piece of paper and write down what blades I was flying and what course set I flew. So I had a written documentation. So when I came back later on, that was my time to beat. What I did is I added that feature so I didn't have to carry more pencil and paper out with me. So I've added another function. I clicked the button and I've keyed in my favorite places to fly. And you can change these in the software, and I'll show you how to do that later. So here are all of my best times of all the places I fly. At the FPV tree racers, we have 2 types of styles of racing. Rotocross, which has about 1,000 degrees of turning radius to 1,400 degrees of turning radius. And then we also do blade-to-blade racing that have around 700 degrees in radius. 2 different courses, 2 different setups for each location. So in this situation, I can take my dial and change. Let's say I want to go to, let's go to Master Blaster blade to blade. And if I push this momentary switch, it's going to take this best time and copy it to there. Bingo, done. Now, when I power off my unit, I power it back up.
Now, go light it up. Stop timer.
I can
Race.
flick to this third program, and there it is. It's written into the EEPROM memory, or the ROM memory, however it does it. But it's there permanently, no matter if you turn it on or turn it off. Along the way, if you forget what the buttons are on this screen, it shows you right there, SH down, which is your momentary switch, SH down, or in this case, this position, triggering your momentary. That will write it, and then S2 is right here. That changes your locations. On this, we don't have enough room for all the buttons, but even me with my slipping memory, I write down all of my features and functions. Okay, that's a demonstration of the ultimate lap timer. If you don't think you're going to need this, then thanks for joining us, and make sure to subscribe to our channel. If you think this is something you could use, hang around for part 2. We're going to show you how to install it. The third part will be how to customize it. Okay, let's go ahead and install the ultimate lap timer. First thing you're going to do is you're going to type in FPV tree racers. How about that? There we are. You're going to click that. You're going to go into our discussion area. And here you'll find a knowledge repository of lots of information for our race association people. Race modifications and thrust. And we have 3 threads currently. How to build a 250 spec for 250, some informed decision making for motor, prop, and thrust data, and what we're looking for right here, ultimate lap timer. You click that, and you get the instructions step by step on how to install and get the ultimate lap timer working on your machine. First thing it says to do is download the latest OpenTx firmware with Lua checked. Okay, so let's see how to do that. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to OpenTx. That's where you can get Companion. Companion is the PC software that runs on your computer and interfaces with your OpenTx transmitter. Here's a version of that, and it's installed. We click Settings. The most important piece right here is to get your radio type correct. Now, I'm going to say this again. If you don't modify this, you're going to download the wrong version of your firmware, and it won't work. So I'll say it again. Drop down, pick your radio. Don't use the default. Mine's right down here, the Taranis Plus, and that has the voice. The next most important thing is this Lua must be checked. Lua is the scripting language. So make sure to click that. And we hit OK. Next, we click the download button. And what this is going to do is it's going to show you the latest firmware. You can check for updates and download the latest firmware. I'm not going to go through how to do that, even though we've done a lot of it already. If you'd like more information to learn how to do that, we're going to go over to the FPV Tree Racer YouTube channel. You're going to click that, and you're going to see Racing Resources. Scott Page is the OpenTx guru. If you go over here and quickly search firmware, lo and behold, the first one comes up as how to flash firmware or 2 minutes and 32 seconds. So if you haven't already checked out his page, certainly do so. Back to our regularly scheduled program here. Now you've downloaded it, you've checked Lua, and you've updated your radio with the latest firmware. Now, next step, let's go ahead and download and unzip all of our data. So we're going to jump back to this. And there's this little link right here under step 2, download and unzip OpenTx. You're going to click that. You're going to have a file here, say FTR, FPV Tree Racers Ultimate Timer. You're going to click it. You're going to save that file. File's been saved. Here it is. We right mouse click. We unzip and we extract all. We've extracted the zip file, and you can see we've got 3 subdirectories. Following along on our instructions, you can see we've copied and unzipped, and we're now on step 3A. And if you look at the naming convention, copy to tx scripts _ functions. So what this is saying is take everything in here and put it in this directory on your tx. Copy to tx scripts _ functions. That's what we're doing right here. So this is our transmitter. And let's follow along. Copy to tx script functions. Here's scripts. Here's functions. We're going to copy these files. Now I have a bunch of other data, but the 2 you're interested in is FTR best T and FTR timer. Take these 2 and just drag them right over. Next, create a subdirectory under sounds-en called FTR. And here's FTR. We use these are all the 28 or so 27 sound files that the Ultimate Lap Timer uses. So once again, if I click this, here's all these sound files. So let's just see what one of these is.
Sweet Flight, honey.
Sweet Flight, honey. I like that one. Okay, so we're going to drag and create a subdirectory now called Sounds English FTR. That's a must, otherwise none of the sounds will play. Going on. There are other sound files that you can use. This is a bonus. This is for hanging around this long. We go over to Copy Sounds English, and I have some of these sounds assigned to my radio buttons. Race rates.
Race rates.
Start timer.
Start timer. Reset all.
So these are just some other features I have. Okay, and you can drag those and copy those over to your Sounds English. I use an underscore in front of them. You're only limited to 6 letters for these naming conventions, Anything with an underscore will come up first. Then you know it's not a system file, but a user added file. Okay, moving along. Transmitter setup. Okay, we're almost done here. The only thing left is we have to take those two Lua scripts and assign them to a special function. You might have done that before. What we're going to do is, for each model that we choose to use these scripts for, we have to do these same procedures again. So I'm going to select my little quad open spec. I click the page button. The first thing we're going to do is, remember that these two buttons need to be in the center position? Well, we can change that by scrolling down. So we'll get little voice alerts. So you can go into B and make sure that it's in the center position. That way when you power on your transmitter and you go into this model, if these sticks aren't centered, you'll get a message. Next, we jump to page 11, Special Functions. If you've downloaded the Lua version of the software, one of the things you're going to be able to do is now assign Lua scripts to various buttons. As I said before, button SA we have assigned to run two programs. The first program is our timer, and the third program is our saving. Let's go ahead and do that. We scroll down and you can see for special function 6 we assigned SA. You choose Lua script, hit enter, and you'll get a drop down of all the programs that are in your special functions folder. If you don't see FTR-T or FTRtimer.lua, you didn't copy the two files into the right folder. Go back and check the instructions, make sure they get there. So we're going to go ahead and select timer, and there it is. So you can see SA neutral, Lua script, FTR timer, SA down, Lua script, FTR best time, and then in the up position, nothing shows. So you can see the moment I click this button, the timer runs. Make sure you don't put it in to Lua custom scripts. What that will do is it'll run all the time and run in the background. And then there's no way to exit that because it's just like a telemetry function. So don't put it in here. Put it back in special functions, and then we can activate it and unactivate it. Okay, that should be it. One more important note, your throttle channel setting must come from channel 1. That can be modified in part 3 in the code, but if you're not getting your percentages working correctly in the lap timer, it's because your throttle is not assigned to channel 1. One more thing, remember some of those extra sounds we put in the underscore English categories? You can see where I've added those. I'm going to scroll down. Here's where I've added those features. Stop timer, start timer, and I have two different race modes, one for acro flying and one for race rates, which slow down my dual rates, gives me more precision. So those are right there. That's part 2. That's enough to go fly on. So enjoy it, and now we're going to do part 3, how you can modify it if you don't like these various buttons, or how to also change these descriptions. Very easy to do. Coming up in part 3. Congratulations, you've made it this far. Okay, welcome to part 3. The first thing you can change is the designated switches. Let's take a look at that. How are we going to do it? Well, the first thing we can do is we bring up the files, FTR timer, FTR best. We're going to right mouse click. We're going to try to open it with Notepad, and bingo, this is what you get. And even if you turn on and off word wrap, it's still not usable. So that's not going to help us. So go out and install Notepad++. So Google it, find it, install it, and it'll work great. If you're a programmer, you already have some sort of editor. So I'm going to right mouse click FTR timer, and I'm going to edit this with Notepad++. And there's the code. 400 lines of sweetness. At this point, I want to give a special shout out to Nigel Sheffield. When I was trying to find out how to do this and if it was possible, Nigel was one of the key guy who came in and said, yeah, it can be done. And not only did he say it can be done without asking, he wrote a little bit of code for me. And if you've ever been a programmer and you're starting from a blank page, it's sure nice to have a little bit to go on than a blank page. Also, I started writing this script before I even had a Taranis. So, you know, I was working blind, so any input was great input. Again, I thank Nigel. Also, shout out to ON4MJ Mike and Kilraw for RC groups. They're also on the OpenTx forum, and they respond to a lot of questions over there. Super job, guys. I appreciate it. The racing community hopefully also appreciates it. If you look at the code, dash dash bracket bracket and two more brackets, that's your comment section. It's showing green on the screen. You can change these. This tells you what and how to change. This tells you the current functions that are assigned, switch B, switch C, slider knobs 1 and 2. Those are the 4 key functions plus SH. But you can only modify these 4. Now, let's take a look at the buttons. In this section, if you look closely here, it says you can reassign these switches. Anything in this area you can change. So you can see I have some apply switches and reset switches and lap timers and check timers, and there are the values that are in there, and I'll tell you what functions they do. Note lowercase. If you're going to change them, make sure they're lowercase, and these 2 switches, make sure they're 3 position switches. We check for up and down and neutral. Now for sliders, there's 4 of them, so you can move these from the 2 main ones on the front to the 2 slide sliders. When you're done, make sure to hit save and copy the program over. That's all you should have to do, and you'll be set. Okay, let's take a look at how to modify those location names. That's under your best T function. Right mouse click, edit with Notepad, and here it is. User modifiable fields, we're using SH. You can apply it to another switch. Same thing with the S2 function, and here's where you can change the name. You could overwrite these names. Be careful that you don't make them too long because you'll run out of screen real estate that way. Remember to hit Control S to save it and move it into the appropriate subdirectory. That's how you change your best time field location names. Now, let's say you're going along and you don't like the way the sounds play, or you don't want the sounds at all. Well, that's easy enough. You just go to your sounds file. Once again, on your transmitter, not on your PC, and you can go to the FTR. So let's say you don't want any of these little, how about this one?
You handsome fellow.
You handsome fellow. Maybe say you don't want any of this. All you've got to do is go in there and change these files to some random name. What will happen is the program has these hard-coded in there, and if it can't find them, it doesn't play it. And the good news is the program doesn't blow up. Just make sure you don't rename them to longer than 6 letters. 6 is the max. So that's how you modify that. If you would like your own WAV file, well then, you can just use these exact same naming conventions but create your own WAV file. But if you do want to use your own WAV files, make sure you follow the OpenTx conventions and file types. Google around on Scott Page has some information on what you need to conform to in order for your WAV files to play. And that's it. Hey, congratulations. You've lasted 30 minutes on information about the ultimate lap timer, and I think you're going to really enjoy it. Timing your laps is addictive. As soon as you time your first lap, you're going to be obsessed with beating your best lap time, and you won't want to leave. But this is a technical video, so there will always be changes and modifications to the software and errors in the video. So even if you're on a mobile device, make sure to check the descriptions, as that's where I'm going to update anything that was wrong or new information about the ultimate lap timer. So now, go light it up.